On that note to you, Mr. Venkatraman, what have you made of the package? Do you think this is just about 10% of what you expected and that the big ones are yet to follow?
I don't have a very clear line. I hope you can hear me because
yes,
I'm not able to hear you.
We can hear you. We can hear you. Your first thoughts on how important is this package?
Well, I've not been able to hear the other participants. So I'll just keep myself brief so that I don't get into repetition.
Sure.
I think my initial reaction is that this is a good balance of empathy and prudence. A lot has been done for the MSMEs, which was required, particularly through the support on the credit guarantee scheme. And I think I like the concept of saying that they can become larger without any fear. On the other vulnerable area, which was the NBFCs and the housing finance corporations again, the way in which the guarantee facilities have been given, I particularly like the concept of the partial guarantee scheme because since there is still 80% with the lender, I think he will exercise his due diligence to ensure that there is no borrower default. And overall, I think it is positive. Of course, looking forward to tomorrow and day after. If I may just make a quick point on power, I know you did ask a question on the DISCOM earlier, but I couldn't hear it clearly. Perhaps what I would like to point out is that this is a very welcome step because from what I understand, the DISCOMs are bleeding almost 300 crores a day, and the aggregate amount of distress will be almost 200,000 crores. So to that extent, a 90,000 crore relief is very substantial and will enable them to pay their suppliers, for example, the suppliers of fuel. Perhaps, I mean, I'm just wondering whether there was some way we could also pay downstream to the consumers of electricity, particularly those who are below a certain poverty line or whatever. But I guess it may be academic at this stage. But certainly, I think it was a very, very good move on the DISCOM as well.
Mr. Venkatram, the other L that was highlighted by the Prime Minister in his speech was local. Now, we've had a tweet being put out by the Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, today talking about, citizens going out there, supporting local products, local brands, encouraging each other to buy local. And in brackets, there's Swadeshi mentioned as well by the Home Minister. Now, as foreign investors who we are hoping to woo and draw in as part of this move of the global supply chain into India, how would they read this business of going local?
Shireen, I'm sorry, the line is still bad, so I couldn't hear you fully, but I think that you're asking me the question about going local.
Yes.
Well, thank you. So I think that in this particular instance, I mean, today, as rightly pointed out by my colleague before me on the fact is that we only address liquidity. To a certain extent, if I may just go back a bit on liquidity again, I think that I would need to deep dive more into which sectors are getting affected and which sectors the MSMEs are in, because certain sectors will benefit from it. And in certain sectors, if there is no demand, a lot of money that goes in will not really achieve the future purpose of growth. On the issue of what we have to create, the whole issue of supply chain came up largely because of the stress that is there between, say, China and the US. You had the trade agreements which were being discussed and negotiated. Then it's now escalated to a different level. And everybody was thinking in terms of how do we then participate as a country in the 2.4 trillion of exports that are made from China? How can we make in India? And will supply chains get diverted, etc.? There were others who were thinking of, is it China plus one, that China will continue and you will have other alternative sources of supply. The way in which I hope that the announcements come out, because of all that the government has been saying over the last few days, is to essentially say we should look in terms of import substitution. So when you're looking at going local, there's a lot of consumption that we do here, which is actually from imports into India. It starts from basics like, when I say basics, mean basic needs, which, I mean, what I would consider basic today, like including electronic appliances, TV sets, etc. There is absolutely no reason to believe that India can't make these. So we should look in terms of incentives, including fiscal incentives and other means by which India can manufacture for its own demand needs, as well as to a quality that is required to be able to export. Because the last thing we want is that we manufacture in India to a quality that leaves something to be desired. And I think the automotive industry has proved this to us that it is possible, and therefore we would look at other industries that can do it. The second thing is look at areas where we have a natural advantage, such as, for example, fruits and vegetables, and say that if we are able to do more export of fruit and vegetables, and also I would add seafood, given the vast coastline that we have. Again, this requires logistics changes, supply chain logistics, a lot on the transportation side as well. But if we are able to do things like this, to create cold food chains, to look in terms of exports, this could even be to neighboring countries like China. Why must we exclude the fact that we will continue to have trade with China? It's just that it has to be a more balanced trade, by which we not only import some amount from them and substitute the rest, but also export to our neighboring countries. So I think that local
yes, you're right about that.
2.0, in my view, is of manufacturing in India. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to reinvent technology. We can certainly import technology. We can certainly invite foreign manufacturers to come and partner with us on this journey. And to that extent, it is really more about make in India than make by Indians. Thank you.
Well, that's what I was saying, that we've already had the Make in India program, so I'm wondering how this is going to be different in any form or fashion from the existing Make in India policy that we've had over the last 6 years. Mr. Venkatram, Mr. Garg, Mr. Sunil Mehta, many thanks for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Appreciate your time. That's the first cut, the first set of reactions coming in to the Finance Minister's measures that were announced today. Some degree of the fine print being unveiled today, but